Hello teacher, good evening. I'm going to be explaining today New Zealand English. So, introduction. English is one of those languages that is spoken around the world. English can have many forms, a lot of expanded vocabulary, pronunciations, accents, and knowing this, New Zealand is one of those countries that most of the population from there speaks in English. But why? Why does this happen? Why is one of the most important languages? Let's find out. To comprehend why English is spoken in New Zealand, let's talk about the history. Everything started with Captain James Cook arriving to New Zealand in the 1769. He discovered the territory and claimed it for the UK and the British Crown. There were a lot of Polynesian people speaking Maori back then. Then the Treaty of Waitangi happened in the 1840, and then immigrations started to happen, bringing people that speak in English to New Zealand. Okay, but we have more immigrations that happens after the Treaty of Waitangi. A gold rush in Otago occurred, and then more immigrants started to come to New Zealand. They were Australians, most of them. Then more British people went to New Zealand. This time the immigration was planned, and then those people that used to speak English started to form families in New Zealand, and of course their children were raised to speak English. And from Ireland and Scotland also happened to immigrate to New Zealand back then. Okay, so New Zealand English has some characteristics. For example, it's informal. They have these words called gudo that have this phenomenon called hypocorism. Something borrowed is the next characteristics, and there are words that New Zealand English took from other language, from other forms of the language, from the English language, and they gave them new meanings, like paddock. And cutting corners means that there are a lot of abbreviation. For example, under OE is an expression that they use. Other characteristics are that they like fuse words. They fuse two words and combine them and form a new one. For example, is Baikoi, a combination of bike and haikoi. Overseas and over there means that they have some famous words. In New Zealand English has some famous words that expanded to other countries like jet boat, and multitasking words means that they have words that can be used for any context. For example, unit. It can be used for many contexts. It is also to say that it exists some British influence in the language, like the R that is silent in ca, cut, or butter, and there the Australian influence. But for Australians, is very New Zealand English is very recognizable. For example, they say fish, but New Zealanders say fish. And there's the Maori influence that, of course, when two languages are combined in one country, of course, they can take inspiration from one another. So, after all of this, there is this question: is English an official language in New Zealand? No. The answer is no. It's considered to be as the de facto language in New Zealand. Meanwhile, Maori and New Zealand Sign Language are the ones that are official in that country. English has the status of being the main language of communication because most of the people that live there use English, but it is not a priority to declare English as official in New Zealand. So to give a conclusion, we have that English has its own identity. The English from New Zealand has its own identity, and is that one language that is the most spoken one in nowadays. We have that English from New Zealand has its own characteristics. It can be different to other forms of the language, and the only official language of New Zealand is Maori, and the New Zealand Sign Language, but that is not an obstacle for English to be the main one in that country. So that is the explanation of the New Zealand English. Thank you so much for hearing my presentation. Thank you.